LMadu, and the topic is the coexistence, the peaceful coexistence between Christians and Muslims on the continent of Africa. And of course, Dr. Madu, I might add my astonishment of the fact of the existence of as many Christians, and especially Catholics, on the continent of Africa, as well as the existence of the number of Muslims in Africa. And I think that if you put all of these Christians and all of these traditionalists and all of these Muslims together, you've got a really religious fervor on the continent of Africa. So let's look at it from that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's what amazes people. Apart from South America, you know, Africa has more Catholics than any other continent in the entire world. People don't understand that. The last man who was considered, you know, as Pope, you know, comes from Nigeria. In fact, he's an ethnic Igbo, Archbishop Cardinal Francis Arinze, who was considered to succeed Pope John, you know, Paul, when he died. But unfortunately now he's about 85 years old, so he wasn't in contention at this time, you know, for the new papacy. And of course, when you're over 80, as a cardinal, you cannot vote either, you know. So it's very significant to have these many religions in Africa living peacefully together, you know, despite every other thing. Now, why was it that Christianity had a more difficult time coming into Africa than Islam? Okay? Islam had an easier time coming into Africa because they tolerated and accommodated African traditional beliefs. When Islam came in, they didn't bother the people about how many wives they married. They didn't bother them about ancestor worship. They didn't bother them about witchcraft and all. They just left them alone. So Africans were more accepting of Islam, you know, because they left them the way they were, you know. On the other hand, when Christianity came in, they said, okay, oh no, you can marry more than, you know, so many wives. We don't want you worshiping ancestors. We don't want you doing witchcraft. We don't want all that. So there was some resistance from the African traditionalists, you know, who saw Islam as more receptive of their way of life than Christianity. You know, even though, you know, Islam says don't drink, but of course they don't care about that. You know, some of them can drink in their heart and don't care, you know, about that. So it was more receptive. So that was why the movement of Islam into Africa was faster and quicker than Christianity. Now, why is there no conflict or less conflict, you know, between both religions in Africa? You know, as people have said. Like I said, I've had people say Africa is not tolerant about religion, you know, they don't like people from other religions. Like I said, it's further from the truth. Number one is this: the accommodating nature of African traditional religion. When Islam came in, Christianity came in, African religion absorbed them as part and parcel of their own religion. You know, you've heard of syncretic religion. Okay, they absorbed them as part and parcel of their own religion. Okay, they didn't shy away. Secondly, African religion, like I articulated before, was not for sale, was not for export. It was for internal domestic consumption. And so because of that, it wasn't in competition, okay, for souls and creed, you know, with Islam or Christianity. So in that way, there was no tension. There was no quarrel. There was nothing to fight over. The religion just accepted them. So three of us can live in peace without competing. We don't want to go to Arabia and spread African religion. We are not going to Europe to spread African religion. We are staying here. So you are welcome. So that's important. That's number two. Number three is the multi-religious nature of African, you know, traditional families. You can have a family of 10. One brother is a Hindu, the other one is Jewish, the other one is Catholic, the other one is Muslim, you know, the other one belongs to Taoism. All of them live in the same house. So there's no quarrel about which religion you belong to. You can, you know, worship whatever you want to. We're all the same. And that's where that traditional religious accommodation comes in. Yeah, because after they go to their mosque or their synagogues or their churches, they come back
Home to the traditional religion.
Exactly, to the spirits of their home. They have all that. So those three factors are very significant here. And that is why Africa, Islam is called, in a way, an Afro-Asian religion. Because it's only in Africa, like I said before, Africa and Asia, that you have Muslim states. You don't have Muslim states in Europe. Okay? At the same time, Christianity is an Afro-Western religion because it's only in Africa and Europe that you have, Christian states. You see? So this is very important to understand the tolerance of religion in Africa. It's only in Africa that you have these two huge monotheistic religions living peacefully without struggling for territories up to today.
Or for souls.
Absolutely. Now, you talk about religious tolerance. Africa, was a trailblazer when it comes to religious tolerance. Now imagine in the 60s, you remember when President Kennedy was running for office. People said, oh no, we don't want a Catholic. Or the Pope is going to come through a tunnel, to tell him what to do and all that. You are still having religious problems here, deciding who's going to be president. The same in Europe. But in Africa, no. The first president of Senegal, with a population of almost 99% Muslims, was Christian, Leopold Senghor. Okay? The first president of Tanzania, Julius Nyerere, okay, first president of Tanzania was a Christian in a majority Islamic nation. The first president of Gambia, Sir David Jawara, was a Christian in a population of almost 90% Christian. The first president of Burkina Faso, formerly called Upper Volta, was a Christian in a predominantly Muslim nation. Okay? So Africans have never had that problem
of religious differences.
Exactly, of religious differences influencing what they do or whom they want to work with or whom to lead them. So when Africa was busy, getting Christians elected in Muslim countries, Muslims getting elected in Christian countries in Africa, in Europe we are still debating whether, a Catholic or a Protestant or, Baptist or Methodist is going to be president. So in that way, Africa is a trailblazer when it comes to religious tolerance. In Uganda, you've heard about what happened before. You had the martyrs of Uganda where they beheaded, some religious fanatics there. The King Mutesa, the second, was a Christian.
Okay, Dr. Abdul,
Muslims.
We're getting ready for our second commercial break here, but let's stop it at that point so we can pick up at that particular point. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break.